Mars in Gemini. I don't know why I started it like that. It's actually like an amazing placement. Hola my beautiful lotus flowers, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is the community for you. Today we're talking all about having Mars in Gemini. This is not the same as having Sun sign in Gemini. That is completely different. What this means is that at the time that you were born, Mars was moving through the constellation of Gemini. We're going to start the video by having an introduction to Mars in case you're not sure what the energy of Mars entails in astrology. Then we'll go on to talk about some of the general traits of somebody with this placement, and we'll finish off the video with a couple empowering tips because I do not like to just leave you with the information. I like to leave you with some advice for your specific placement so you know how to put it into action, because I believe in using astrology positively for self-improvement. I don't know about you, but that's how we work over here, okay? Okay. First, let's briefly discuss what Mars means in astrology. First off, Mars is the planet of our quote-unquote animalistic instincts, action, ambition, desire, and passion. It rules over the zodiac sign Aries, but it's also the co-ruler and traditional ruler of Scorpio before Pluto came into the picture. The Mars placement in our birth chart can give us insight on how we physically take action in the world, what ignites our inner fire, and how we tame or transmute that fire into reality. Whereas Venus is about what we are attracted to in the physical realm, Mars is more so how we actually act on, pursue, and express those desires. It is the primary conductor of our innermost passions, and it gives us a direct pathway on how we assert ourselves in the world. Remember to check if Mars was retrograde at the time that you were born, because this also affects how its placement manifests in your life. When you pull up your natal chart, check to see if your Mars has a little R or RX next to it. This indicates that that planet was retrograde at the time of your birth. Now for the general traits of somebody who has Mars in Gemini. First, it's important to remember that Gemini is the mutable air sign ruled by Mercury, symbolized by the twins. Number 1, constant activity of the mind and exercising the brain is what fuels these individuals most. Mercury is the planetary ruler of Gemini. So considering the fact that Mercury is the planet of communication and our mental process, placing Mars here places huge emphasis on actively using the mind in some way that challenges the brain and expands this person's knowledge. Oftentimes, a lot of us forget that the brain is actually its own muscle that needs exercise like the rest of the body. So with this placement, this fact is even more important than ever. Obviously, all of us should be exercising our brain and challenging it every day. But with this placement, they need this. Like, they have no other choice. They have to exercise the brain. Mars is a very physical planet that really relates to the physical activity of our body and how we carry things out physically and how we act on things, how we assert ourselves in the world, etc. This person, they really assert themselves through the mind. So using the mind and activating the mind is extremely important for this person to not only be happy, but to live a fulfilling life, to also feel productive, and so on and so forth. If you have this placement or you know someone who does, you've probably seen what I'm talking about in action. A lot of times this person definitely exemplifies a restlessness, or like they can't seem to focus. Focus isn't the right word, but they do tend to dart quickly from topic to topic, task to task, and they actually do it well. Like, it's impressive, but it's because they have the mental capacity to do so, and it actually makes them happy to be so preoccupied, to have their mind so preoccupied all the time. But it's definitely not something that all of us can understand if we don't have the placement. Number 2, Having a daily agenda full of various activities, new tasks, events, etc. actually energizes these individuals, making versatility a strong suit of theirs. As mentioned in the previous trait, they probably have a hard time focusing on just one thing, and this can make them quite the busybody. The fact that Gemini is a mutable sign only enhances this because the mutable signs are known for being impressively adaptable, yet easily distracted and not sure where to place their focus. So with this placement, this versatility can make them an absolute boss. The type of person who can schedule a full agenda and have the mental capacity to actually stick to it because they thrive on this level of activity. It does not exhaust them like it would a lot of other people. They often see it as a welcomed physical challenge and mental challenge because these individuals love strategizing, planning, organizing, and it can really bring about a strong entrepreneurial spirit in these individuals. The challenge when it comes to this trait might just be what exactly they're filling their agenda with. Are they filling it with things that are actually productive and moving them forward with whatever they want to do or whatever makes them fulfilled? Or are they just filling their schedule with busy tasks that don't really get them anywhere? Is it just distracted busy work that doesn't actually have any true intention behind it? This can be one of the ways that this placement needs to dive deeper, because some may keep themselves busy with superficial tasks and events and whatnot. But when this trait is channeled in its most powerful way, in its most productive way, then this person can be so successful and achieve whatever they want. It's actually incredible the capacity that they have to be successful. Professional, career, and all that aside, it's also this trait that often makes this person a super lively, adventurous spirit to be around. If you know somebody with this placement, then you might know them as the person that you're always gonna have a good time with. You can always count on them to be fun and be down for anything, trying new things, etc. And if you're involved with them romantically or sexually, then you might find them a little hard to pin down. This person definitely isn't for someone who likes to just stay home and chill all the time. You need to also have an equally adventurous spirit, or going out and doing things together and having fun and trying new things in order to be happy with this person. If you're someone who needs to have a pretty stable routine and you need to be tended to all the time and you don't have a strong sense of individuality, this person is probably not the ideal partner for you long term. Number 3. Going hand in hand with exercising the brain, Gemini Mars individuals have a near insatiable curiosity, making them enjoy constantly learning and putting that knowledge into physical action. With Gemini being an air sign, intellect and knowledge is an overall theme. With Mars being in Gemini, it'll be important for them to constantly gain education in some way, shape, or form. But not only is it important that they gain knowledge, it's also important that they use this knowledge physically in some way, which is where Mars, the physical planet, comes in. The ways in which they bring their knowledge into physical reality may vary, but with the air element present, they might be quite eccentric or innovative thinkers that are able to create things that others would never think of. This, again, can add to that natural entrepreneurial spirit I mentioned earlier. I think it's also worth mentioning just how incredible this trait actually is, because there are other placements out there that will indicate that someone is probably an innovative thinker, an eccentric personality, or is very intelligent and very uniquely intelligent. However, they don't really have the energy to put those innovative, eccentric ideas into action. But Mars and Gemini individuals, oftentimes they do have the energy to put that idea into action, because Gemini Mars individuals really have this synergistic relationship between the mind and the body. They have the mental capacity to not only think of these amazingly creative, innovative ideas, but they also have the physical capacity to execute those innovative and creative ideas, which is incredible. On a less serious note, because I don't want it to seem like this placement is just all supposed to be an entrepreneur and an innovator and everything, But also this person probably is quite eccentric in the way that they present themselves too. Mars can really point a lot at the way we dress up, the way we like to, kind of the way we like to make our energy physically known, how we like to represent ourselves. It can really tie into the rising sign and Venus sign in that way. So Mars and Gemini individuals, they probably often stand out energetically because not only are they often charismatic and lively and adventurous and social, but on top of that, they probably have like a different way of dressing or being. And you don't even always have to dress a certain way to stand out. These individuals have an energy that probably speaks for itself as well, an energy that you may not come across very often, and it's very distinct when you do. If you're enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so that way you don't miss future videos like this one. Comment down below if you are Mars and Gemini, if you know somebody who does. I love to know why you're watching. It's very interesting to learn about you guys. Number 4. These individuals can often be split in various different directions, unsure of what they actually want to prioritize in their lives. Traditionally, Gemini is symbolized by the twins, which can represent Gemini's dual nature. The way in which this dual nature shows up often depends on the placement and the individual themselves. For those with Gemini Mars, their dual energy is what really allows them to have that unprecedented adaptability to life. Although these individuals often have strong stances of their own, they're still very much open to where life can take them, unexpected situations, new experiences, etc., because these types of events in life also give them fuel. It may seem a bit paradoxical, but Mars and Gemini individuals do have a very strong mind of their own. Like I said, they can be very innovative thinkers. They have this natural born entrepreneurial spirit and energy. So in that sense, it's easy to believe that they have a very strong mind. Like whatever they believe, whatever they have stances on, they're very strong in their stance, and they're not afraid to say what they say and do what they do and move to the beat of their own drum, essentially, even if everybody tells them differently. But at the same time, they are still very open-minded and open to the possibilities of where life can lead them, which is so beautiful. And even though they have somewhat of a stubborn nature to them in the sense that, again, nobody can tell them anything. If they want to do things how they want to do them, then that's how they're going to do them. But on the other hand, this openness to life, this openness to the possibilities is also what can make them equally successful or equally fulfilled in life, because they aren't going to, like, say for example, we have a Mars in Taurus that is set on a certain way of doing things and going about things, and no one can tell them any differently because they are inherently stubborn. Well, when something veers off the path that they expected or had in mind, then it might derail them completely and it might really get to them. But with a Mars and Gemini, they may have their stubborn, strong stance, and they may not listen to anybody's warnings. They may not listen to anybody's advice and do things how they're going to do them. But if something unexpected happens that veers them off the path that they thought, then they're gonna be able to adapt and move accordingly to adapt to that new pathway, and then do what they need to do to get themselves back on track. That's the beauty of this placement in that sense. Now for a couple empowering tips for anybody who has Mars in Gemini, or if you know somebody who does. Number 1, practice calming routines for the mind and body. With the fiery, super active planet of Mars placed in the sign of the mind, Gemini, the mind is always active. Although this has many benefits, when it's time for the brain to relax, it can prove extremely difficult to do so. Practices such as breath work, journaling, and meditation, especially before bed, might help in promoting a more relaxed state of mind, priming the mind and body for rest. And practicing these things will obviously take time. It's not like you're gonna do one of them once and suddenly you get the most restful night of sleep and you never have insomnia again. That is obviously not the case. It will take time to not only get used to doing these things and make them habits, but it will take time to also see the results. But especially with this placement, it's important to be aware of the fact that you may be pretty impatient when it comes to instilling some of these slower practices into your routine. So at first it may be difficult because you might be impatient, you might want instant gratification, instant results, and you'd be like, oh, what's the point? And throw it out the window. So I recommend starting very, very small and building with time. So for example, if you want to start working on your breath work, I recommend taking just a couple minutes before bed to start practicing your breath work, and then building with time, because that's going to be better than you trying to do 10 minutes of breath work before bed right off the bat, and you're quickly going to get very impatient with it and again toss it out the window, and we don't want that. Number 2. Be wary of the words spoken when feeling strong, raw emotions. Although adaptable mentally and physically, people with this placement are also very strong-willed and maybe a bit defiant by nature. And with Gemini being a sign that places such an emphasis on communication, they may be prone to saying things that they might think aren't hurtful or a big deal, but can be hurtful or insensitive to others. But with this being such a quick placement, sometimes the words might escape their mouths before they can actually think on what they're saying. Becoming aware of this trait is essentially the first step in being able to slow down and think before you speak. Because again, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the planet of communication, the mind, and even though we talked a lot about the mind in this video, it is very much also connected to the mouth. So like how I said, this person will have their stance and not be afraid to stick by it. They are probably pretty vocal or not afraid to be more vocal about the things that they want, the things they think, especially the things they're thinking. They can be very quick to speak on what they're thinking without actually thinking about what they're speaking on first. And even though it is good to stand up for yourself when it's necessary, it's never necessary to say things that are going to be highly insensitive to other people. And again, you may not mean to hurt others, but just know you can be extremely quick-tongued in that way. Your tongue can be quicker than your mind. So if you are feeling intensified emotions, then those emotions may escape through your mouth and you may say something you regret. So practicing slowing down and being able to think before you speak sometimes can be very beneficial for you. It may cause a lot less stress, a lot less drama, whatever you may have going on. So this definitely ties into the previous advice I gave you, because instilling practices that help you learn how to slow your nervous system and slow your reactions and kind of also slow the brain down, slow the mental activity down, is going to also help you with your communication. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and leave a comment down below if you're a Mars and Gemini individual, or if you know somebody who is, and your thoughts on the placement. I love to know, I'm curious to know. And until I see you next time, if you haven't watched these videos already, be sure you go watch those because they'll help you so much more on your astrological and spiritual journey. But until I see you next time, thank you so much again for being here. I appreciate every last one of you. Adios.